but what concerns would you have that these industrial machines may be bringing to neighborhood residents? What harms may they impose upon residents?
Well, there's a couple. Well, noise, for instance, is one we've been talking about.
Noise may be a harm. Yes. Okay.
Shadow flicker.
Shadow flicker would be a harm.
It's a harm only in the sense that it can be annoying, right?
So you have established for me then that two of the potential dangers to residents from these machines would be firstly noise and secondly shadow flicker. Would you be able to define for us any further potential dangers that these machines would have on residents?
Falling ice, for example.
Falling ice, yes. So, noise, shadow flicker, falling ice, you've identified these. Would there be further potential harms that might be imposed upon local residents?
Well, those are the three that come to mind immediately.
Surely. The question here is there potential harm or is there not potential harm?
From noise?
From all of the endangerments,
right.
Three of which you listed.
Yeah.
Is there harm? This 540 meter, 550, I beg your pardon, yes, 550 meter, which I understand then is a government recommendation?
It's the minimum requirement from the Ministry of the Environment.
Yes, and would you be able to share the basis on which that minimum was established?
I wasn't involved.
No, I appreciate you were not involved. You were busy working at other things. But would you have an understanding of why they might choose 550 meters?
What I hear from the government of Ontario, I guess, is the same thing that anyone else would hear, in that they're establishing these from, I understand, sound. That's, I think, was their primary basis.
Yes.
It's noise levels. That's my understanding where the 550 came from.
Yes. Would you say it's unethical then to proceed with the knowledge that the regulation in place might be inappropriate?
That's a complicated question. Hold on, let me just sort that out in my head here.
Right. If I may, let me rephrase it. So I'm suggesting that the government has made a regulation for whatever reason, political or otherwise.
Okay.
It's curious that the 550 meters seems to be half the distance between two concession roads in this province. I'm not sure how that surveying fact got implicated in any manner with health information. It's a curious relationship there.
Okay.
So, independent of government opinion, would you feel that the company's view is that the 550 is an appropriate distance?
We're not making any statement about that at all.
Not making any statement, but I would now ask you to make a statement about that.
I'm not going to.
Because 550 meters, we're not going to go with 550, it doesn't work. We have to be at least 600 meters with noise, at least, which people can argue it's still, not enough.
Would you put that in writing?
So why
600?
Why wouldn't?
You're from Germany.
Right.
You're still a citizen of Germany. You're not a Canadian citizen, right?
I'm not a Canadian citizen.
Okay. And Germany and France, have they not just increased their setbacks for turbines?
No.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
Okay.
If
the noise.
organizations like the World Health Organization are citing 1,500 meter, 2,000 meter setbacks, if you're at all interested in best practices and due diligence, why wouldn't you start there? Do the studies and move forward. If you're so confident that there is no effects, to health, why wouldn't you start at a setback that is more recognized and becoming more recognized in the world?
1,500 meters?
Yeah.
Just doesn't work here.
It's
That's
business.
not.
Why,
That's
why
the one
doesn't
thing
it
it just
work here?
doesn't
Why
work.
doesn't it work?
Why wouldn't it work?
Economically, it
Eagle
doesn't work.
Stockman told
Pardon
me.
me?
Concessions and houses?
Yeah.
On the 550 meters then, am I led to believe then that this will be the absolute minimum in which your companies would construct a wind turbine from a receptor? This would be an absolute?
If a landowner has agreed to allow it to be closer, like for instance it's on their property,
Surely.
then it's permitted.
So now, that's an interesting point. So now you've been given leave to escape the restriction that the government has made for what we're supposing to be valid and reasonable health reasons. Now, why then would a company choose to permit themselves to escape such a restriction, even if they can, when there is no evidence that you would not be imposing harm to that individual who signed the lease?
Well, like I said, we're not actually constructing the turbines themselves.
Would have to. We don't want to ruin farming. We do not want to make people sick. We just want to produce renewable energy.
Do you personally take responsibility if people do have health effects, injuries, and
What do you
not
want?
injuries, but sign it for a piece of paper today?
You have to prove it. You have to prove it.
If you suggested to me that the government has established 550 meters as an appropriate healthful distance, why then would your company participate in permitting the erection of these machines less than that distance?
Well, I can't speak for the lease, for the person who has the lease, and what would go into their decision to allow that. What we would be doing is conducting a sound study to inform our client about what the noise levels would be at that person's house. I mean, from there, it's up to the client to decide whether they feel that that's appropriate for the landowner. The landowner, I would hope the client would inform the landowner
Surely.
of the noise levels.
And if that client exercised what we might consider poor judgment, in that possibly that he was less informed than he might make a decision unknowingly to permit the erection less than 550 meters. Would your company then say that in that situation, for ethical reasons, that we ought to not erect a machine less than 550 meters because that person, despite their willful doing, really are doing so in an unknowing and inadequately informed manner?
I'm not sure if we would put ourselves in that decision, impose ourselves in that decision.
You would not you and your company would not put yourselves in a position where you were taking an ethical responsibility for the safekeeping of the members of our community.
Well, we conduct sound studies.
Surely, no, I'm understanding that. But to come back to my point, am I correct then in assuming your company would not make decisions, ethical decisions, which might prevent harm to individuals within the community?
Well, as a company, we behave ethically.
In the example that we've been discussing, I'm failing to see that the permission of the erection of a turbine then less than 550 meters would be an appropriate ethical determination?
Well, I guess that's a question that would need to be considered. Is that
Who might consider that in terms of I'm understanding you're representing your company, so I'm asking you, who then would you say would make that determination?
well, ultimately, it's the decision of the proponent and the landholders where the turbines get built.
So you would be then deferring my question of ethics and morality to one of business. If it's appropriate for business, then it would be done, regardless of its ethical implications.
No, we would not do something unethical. Let
You
me
would
put
not.
it that way. No.
That's reassuring. That's extremely reassuring.